Yellow and white sand that we see in the northern Emirates is usually a coarser grain of sand than the gold and red sand that you get further down towards Elaine and down in the Leeward. I don't actually... So why should that 65 kilos make a mark and this not?
The weight per unit area, the weight per unit area is more from the weight.
Oh. So that means that there's a much greater downward pressure where all the weight is on a small area. Okay. Now then.
Weight is spread out.
Well, on this side, the weight is spread over a larger area and there isn't so much pressure on the ground per square centimetre. It's exactly the same principle about what we call flotation with tyres. If I go into the desert with my tyre at, say, 35 pounds per square inch, I've most probably got about that much on each wheel touching the ground. So the 2-ton weight of my car, divide 2 tons, I've most probably got half a ton spread over a relatively small area. If I let my tyres down, reduce the pressure, what happens? This area that is actually in contact with the ground must probably more than doubles. Maybe that exaggerated a little bit. Okay, so the actual pressure per square centimetre pressing onto the ground is much reduced when I have reduced the pressure of my tyres, because there's a greater area of tyre in contact with the ground. And obviously, the more you let your tyres down, the more they spread. There is a limit, though. There's a limit to as far as you can go. I saw Saeed was mentioning earlier about some of these guys. There's a place out in Mushrif Park called Barbecue Hill we go to quite a lot. And a couple of winters ago, I was staggered to see a guy in a Mitsubishi 1600 saloon, young chap wearing a dish dash, going up this hill. And I could never get up in my four-wheel drive normally, but he was going up. But then I looked at his tyres and they were down to about 7 pounds pressure. So then he tried the other hill, which was steeper, because he had an admiring audience. And he actually didn't make that one. So he had to reverse down the hill. And as he reversed down the hill, he just sort of flung the spare wheel round to sort of swing the front of the vehicle round. Now what happens with low range is that the engine is going much faster, turning much faster for the same speed on the ground. But the vehicle is going more slowly. The combination of higher engine revolutions and slower ground speed means that the cooling effect through the wind jamming effect through the radiator system is very much reduced. If I'm driving at 20 kilometers an hour in top gear, I'm getting enough airstream through the radiator to keep the water cool. But if I'm doing 10 kilometers an hour in low range and the engine is doing 3,500, 4,500 revs, I'm not going to generate enough airstream to keep the engine cool. So don't use low range for long periods of time. Low range is very useful for when you're driving down a dune, a steep slope, because it enables you to control the vehicle better. I'll tell you later that when you're driving down a slope, you should never use your foot brakes. If you look on page 18, the Land Rover at the bottom of page 18, in the second picture, he has braked on a downhill slope, and you can see how much the front wheels have plowed into the sand. Okay? Now, at the same time, that happens because the weight transfer and the thrust of the vehicle has put all the weight on the front axle. If it was really steep, you would find that the back wheels would be lifting up and really not in contact with the ground, and there's always the danger of slipping sideways. But if you're going down that dune in low range, you just, in order to slow the vehicle down, you take your foot off the accelerator, and the engine braking will slow the vehicle down. And engine braking will apply equally to all four wheels, not just on the front. So if you do come to a steep dune, get into low second. You should always drive down a dune, not freewheel, not in neutral, low second, and actually foot on the accelerator and drive down the dune. If you want to slow down, take your foot off the throttle, and the engine braking will reduce your speed.
What about
What about
Automatic.
Automatic,
You
can
cannot
lock
brake.
it. You should be able to lock it in first or second.
You could use it as
It depends. If on an old Land Rover like mine, you've got to stop the car.
And you sink in by the time you change and you try to go down.
Some vehicles have just a push button, but you wouldn't actually be, I mean, when you go out and you come across a steep dune where you've got to take special care, you'd be at the top looking at what you're going to do, and you'd be in low range before you start the descent.
and your speed is down anyway. You're not going too fast. So once you move your foot, it's will still apply.
Okay, talking about going down dunes, again, there's a series of, if this is the base of the dune, this is the high dune here, maybe a couple of trees and shrubs around. Here's your vehicle sitting up at the top, and you want to go to the bottom. So that's the route you take. You go straight down. You don't do that, because if you do that, and it's a steep dune, you'll finish up in this situation. Upside down. So, not recommended. When you're going down a dune, go straight down, under power, preferably in low range, and in full control of the vehicle. Now likewise, if you're going up a dune, it's always best to try to take a straight line to go up. It's not always possible to do that, but at least when you start at the bottom, know where you're going to go. If you see that it gets very steep here and it's better to just detour slightly, fine. But don't start climbing up like this and then suddenly find you're doing a 90 right halfway up the dune, otherwise you're going to finish at the bottom upside down again. Look at the ground, and I always say take the line of least resistance. Plot the route where you're going to go on the way up before you actually start. If you look again on page 18, you'll see the Discovery in the top right picture had made a basic error. He tried to tackle that slope almost at a 45-degree angle across the face of the slope, and he ran out of steam, and it was leaning over quite badly. And the only way he could get out of that was to reverse back down again and try a second time.
Can I just come
Please.
into this? Once you come back, if you decide to go reverse, make sure you go in the same direction as you came. Don't try to go straight when the car is like this.
Don't try to turn the
Because if you turn the steering, it will do that with the sand. You will have a problem. Come back to it until you see it is all right, and slowly to take it back into. Many people try, as soon as the car got to that angle and the car is moving, he does this, and then suddenly you find yourself tipped.
Yes, what Saeed is saying is if you get up here like this, don't try and lock it to come down there, but come back on the same angle that you went up.